welcome back everybody. Today we are talking about Solana. We're going to dive into some on-chain metrics that I don't really see too many people talking about and I think is very bullish for Solana. We're also going to dive into the charts, a couple price predictions and chart analysis as well. So stay tuned for that. But first we're going to dive into some of those on-chain metrics and we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it. So let's go. Again, this is not financial advice. I love to do this for entertainment purposes and just because I'm really interested in this stuff. And I know you guys are too. So with that as the caveat, let's roll into the video. Now, first of all, I want to cover the on-chain analysis from a total value locked and just total activity perspective. We're going to cover more from the user side first and then go a little bit into what we're seeing from the developer side. So first, I just wanted to take a look at Solana activity from a total value lock perspective. So essentially how many funds are flowing into Solana as a project via a lot of these different protocols, things like Radium, Jupiter, Orca, Solend, some that you guys are probably familiar with. And one thing I want to point out first is given where we're at from a price perspective compared to the total value locked, from a total value lock perspective, it looks like we have quite a bit to go. We're not even halfway to the all-time high of total value locked in the last crypto bull run for Solana. So from a metric of total value locked, we have quite a bit to go in terms of interest in Solana coming back into the forefront. Even though we pumped like crazy over the last few months and 4 or 5 months, I think there's still a lot more to come from a activity perspective and money flowing into Solana, which obviously translates into interest in the price and the price going up over time. So I wanted to make that point. But the second point I wanted to make is it's hard to digest just how impressive the 4.5 billion total value locked is at this point without a comparison. So I want to jump over to Cardano really quick. Now, obviously, this isn't necessarily apples to apples. Solana has had more protocols around, I believe, for a longer period of time from a DeFi perspective, and that's been more the culture of Solana as opposed to Cardano. But what I will say is looking at the TVL, right, 383 million, right? Solana is only 4 times bigger from a market cap perspective, right? We're seeing 20 billion here for the ADA market cap, Cardano, and then 80 billion for the Solana market cap. So only 4x the size of Cardano from a monetary perspective, from a market cap perspective. But what are we seeing in the difference in total value locked, right? 4.5 billion for Solana, where Cardano is at 383 million. So we're seeing more than a 10x difference in the total value locked and money coming into the project, even though Solana is only 4 times bigger. So we're seeing almost 2 times the increment, the multiplier for the amount of money coming into Solana as compared to their market cap. So for me, what that tells me is the actual popularity of these Solana protocols has increased at a much higher rate than other projects like Cardano and some of these larger crypto projects that are out there. So I think that's a really, really great indicator. I mean, I've used a lot of these myself, Jupiter, Radium, etc. It's a great experience. I think that's really translating into more money comparatively coming into Solana and the ecosystem as compared to other projects on the market. So I really want to hit that hard. I think that's a big reason why we're going to see this be the bull run for Solana. We're going to talk price predictions here in a moment, but I'm really excited about it. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper here from the user side, go into dev, and then over to the chart. So as I was saying, it seems like people are really, really catching on to how well put together a lot of these Solana apps and protocols are, and it's driving a crazy amount of daily active users into the protocols. So across Solana, we've seen, somewhat of an average between, 400 to 700,000 daily active users on Solana across all these different protocols. And we're seeing this, obviously this is split up between the different types of protocols here, and then this is overall right here. I think this is a good visual just to show how consistent and slightly growing that is. And we're staying consistent around 600,000 daily active users. Now, to put that in perspective, right? Even though Ethereum has, more active addresses overall, cumulatively, let's say over the course of a year, 2 year, 3 year period, when we go to look at the Ethereum daily active users, what do we see? We actually see that Solana has quite a bit more daily active users than Ethereum, at least according to this data. Obviously, you need to take Dune Analytics data with a grain of salt, But I will say this is quite interesting. We're seeing daily active users hover close to around 400,000. So almost 100,000 less than Solana daily active users on a protocol, or sorry, on a crypto project that is, way bigger than Solana, right? And so I think that that's definitely an interesting point to make, just because comparatively to its size, Ethereum should have much more activity when Solana really comparatively has a lot better activity than Ethereum. And so I think it just continues to make that case of Solana as the ETH killer stronger and stronger. And I think we're going to see that in terms of price action in this bull run. So I'm excited about that. Now, we've covered the daily active user piece. Hopefully that was interesting for you guys. Let's dive over to the developer activity and kind of diagnose that. So this is kind of a brief snapshot of what we saw last year. This is monthly active developers on Solana, and we saw it kind of average between 3,000 and 2,500 throughout the year, which is pretty solid. That's more than a lot of the projects that are around Solana's size. But we're going to get into what this actually means here in a moment. And then what I will say is what's maybe even more impressive than this is the retention rate. So their 3-month look back on developer retention is actually hovering closer to, towards the end of last year, was hovering above 50%, which is great. A lot of these developers that come to these protocols come in, do a couple commits, try stuff out, move on to another protocol, move on to another project, right? And they kind of do that over and over again. So when you see developers come in and stay with a project, stay developing on whether it's Solana, Cardano, Ethereum, etc., and you see them staying, that means that they're having a good experience developing and they're reaping the rewards from that. So whether it's really easy to develop on Rust or some of these other blockchain languages, or whether they're seeing growth in what they're developing because of the users that are involved in that protocol. It's a blend of a lot of these things, but I think at the same time, this is a great note to make about Solana and the developer activity, the fact that they're actually retaining those developers, and it's not just a cycle of new developers all the time, because obviously that would slow the rate of development over the course of time. If you have new developers coming in and it's not the same that are actually staying and sticking with it and building. Now, one thing I will know, a lot of people will call out, hey, it's all about commits, right? It's all about commits by these developers, changes they're making. And what I will say is I want to make very, very clear really quick what a commit is before we dive into the actual chart showing where Solana is on this commit rating. So a developer commit is essentially just a revision, right? So it's an approved change to a project source code that may or may not be approved by the community, definitely approved by the admins typically. And they have to agree that it's actually an improvement, right? But this can be multiple changes made in a day. It can be revisions to previous errors. So with that, right, it's kind of like saying, hey, let's make changes to this essay, right? I mean, some revisions are better than others, right? And it's kind of the cumulative total of those revisions, but there's no saying, okay, how important is this revision versus another? That doesn't really come through in commits. So my personal opinion is it's not a great measure of success on aggregate by itself, but obviously you take into account as a total kind of cumulative picture. So with that caveat, let's go into look at some of the commit numbers and compare where Solana's at. So going over here on the left-hand side, I think you guys will see what I'm talking about right here, right? Obviously, a lot of these projects are well-known, successful in their own right, but at the same time, in terms of yearly growth in price, yearly growth in activity across some of these blockchains, these are not the ones that would immediately come to mind, right? We see Internet Computer ICP is number 1 in total developer commits over the last year at 24,000. We see ADA at number 2 and ETH at number 3. And obviously, these have performed quite well, but at the same time, you're not seeing those types of projects that you'd kind of think that you would see here at the top, right? So I think that this is definitely something that's great to take into account, but at the same time, it's not everything. Commits can be any type of revision made to the source code. So obviously, we see Solana here sitting at 15. Not a bad place to sit, but I think this really drives home the point, right? Terra Luna Classic has 6,200 commits, and it's in the top 20. Terra Luna Classic is essentially dead, right? So, I think that's something that is really, really good to bring up here as we see some of these projects. Some are really, really notable, great projects, and some, surprising to see them in the top 20 of commits. So take commits as a grain of salt, more of a cumulative picture, but still nonetheless really interesting to take a look at. Now, I want to move over to the charts really quick and see what we're going to be looking at from a price action perspective, and maybe some price prediction levels we can look at. So this is the daily chart of Solana. We can see that just here in the last few weeks, we've been able to hold this very, very nice trend line that we've developed over the last, just shy of a year or so. We've been able to bounce off this trend line quite nicely already twice. And that also corresponds with this Fibonacci level, which is the 618 fib, and that's sitting right at around $165, right? So we've seen a wick down bounce here, and then we saw basically a true bounce there off of it as well, which is honestly bullish, right? Because we were able to essentially stand on top of this fib, get right up to the 618, and tap the fib above here at about 208, come back down, and obviously test that again. And now we are kind of on this channel here between the 618 and the 786 fib. So really, really interesting to see where Solana is going to go from here. But what I would like to see is a consistent trend along this trend line. But then most likely next time we come down to either retest the 618 or come up to retest this 786, I would like to see a breakthrough of the 786 if we're going to retest this again. Because the chances are if we retest this again, it's either going to be a solidified bounce in a triple bottom, or we could see it break down and potentially see, this 136 level again. But again, a lot of this is dependent on where Bitcoin is going to be going. I would say to the upside, if we are talking about, let's say, longer term, I think really the target that we're eyeing up for this bull run for Solana is going to be up here, likely between the 1618 and the 2618 fib. So once we get back past that all-time high in the 260s there, we're going to want to see Solana hit this 417-ish mark, and then likely play between this and 670. This would probably be more of a conservative prediction for a long-term bull target on Solana, but I think it's safe to say that we're going to play between this area, around 550, 570, somewhere in there. And I think that's kind of a good conservative target for Solana this bull run, just because typically in these bull runs, you're not going to clear, 4, 5, 6 fib levels clear straight. Usually you're clearing, 2, 3 fib levels above your all-time high, especially for a lot of these larger projects, right? That are already 50, 60, 70, 100 billion market cap. You're not going to be clearing, you're not going to be breaching a bunch of these fibs like you do on the uptake from your all-time low. You're more so going to be breaking 2 or 3 max when these projects are already so big. So that's why I'm saying somewhere between 670 and 417 would kind of be my conservative target. Obviously, if we break above that, that'd be great. We'd be looking between 670 and 922. But at the same time, like to go a little bit conservative, even though obviously we'd always love to go higher than that. But anyway, that is the video, guys, today. Comment, let me know what you guys think of Solana. Are you bullish on it? Love to get your thoughts. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.